I never thought a simple hangout could turn into something that messes with your head for weeks, but here we are. It started like any normal Friday night. Me, a bit drained from work, scrolling through my phone, and then getting a text from Jamie. We've been friends since college, the kind of friendship that's lasted through bad breakups, job changes, and terrible music phases. Nothing romantic, or so I thought. But that night, something shifted, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how it all snuck up on me. Jamie's message was casual, just, "Yup, wanna grab some beers?" I should have said no. I was wiped. But there was that familiar pull, his easy laugh, the way he always made even the dullest nights feel like a scene from a movie. So I texted back, and in less than an hour, he was at my place, grinning like he'd just won some private joke. We ended up at this little dive bar downtown. The kind of place with sticky floors and the best cheap drinks. It was crowded, loud, and perfect for us to just unwind without overthinking anything. Jamie slid next to me at the bar, and the first thing I noticed was how casual he was, like he'd always been this close. But then, halfway through the night, he reached over and rested his hand on my knee. Just for a second, like it was nothing. I froze for a moment, heart skipping, but I didn't pull away. Instead, I caught his eye, and he gave me that half smirk, the one that says he knows exactly what he's doing. It was confusing and exciting all at once, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted it to stop or keep going. The night went on, each time his touch felt a little bolder. Light brushes on my arm, fingers lingering a second longer than before. I told myself it was just the buzz, that maybe I was imagining things, but deep down, I was waiting for him to make the next move. By the time we left the bar, the city was quiet, streetlights casting long shadows. Jamie reached out and took my hand, like it was the most natural thing in the world. That moment, simple and electric, made me realize that something had changed between us, something I hadn't seen coming but couldn't ignore. We didn't talk about it that night. We just walked, hand in hand, like friends do. But the next time we hung out, I had a feeling things wouldn't stay the same. And honestly, I was both terrified and thrilled to see where it might go. The next time Jamie and I hung out, I was way more aware of every little thing. I kept catching myself stealing glances at his hands, wondering if they'd find a way to touch me again. When he showed up at my door that Saturday afternoon, he had that same grin, but with a hint of something that made my stomach flip, like he was holding back and daring me to notice. We decided to keep it low-key, ordered some takeout, grabbed a couple of beers, and plopped down on my couch to binge-watch some dumb comedy series. I was half paying attention to the show, but mostly just watching Jamie. It's funny how someone can feel so familiar and suddenly make you see them in a completely new light. His smile when he laughed, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners, it all seemed sharper, more intense. At some point, I felt his knee brush against mine, not by accident either. He didn't pull away. Instead, he rested his hand there, fingers gently tapping a rhythm I didn't recognize, but somehow matched the quick thumping in my chest. "Hey," he said, voice quieter than before. "You okay? You seem different." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, just weirdly aware of you sitting too close." Jamie laughed too, but that look didn't leave his face. "Good." And then, like he was trying to push some invisible boundary, he shifted so our knees touched fully. I didn't pull back. Didn't want to, honestly. We kept watching, but the TV noise started to fade into the background. Then, Jamie leaned over and rested his head on my shoulder, the kind of move friends sometimes make when they're tired or feeling sentimental. But this felt different. It felt like a test, a shift. My breath hitched. I wasn't sure if it was hope or fear or something else entirely. I looked down at his face, peaceful and kind of vulnerable. I wanted to say something, to ask what this all meant, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just let him stay there. Later, when he finally pulled away, the room felt a little emptier. I wanted to reach for him again, but didn't know if I should, so I said the only thing that made sense. "Jamie, what's going on?" He looked at me like I'd caught him thinking too deeply. "I don't know, man. I guess. I've been scared to say anything because I didn't want to mess up what we have. But sitting here with you, It feels like maybe I'm ready to try something different. The honesty in his voice cracked something wide open inside me. I realized I'd been holding back too, scared that whatever we had would vanish if I admitted how I felt. Different how? I asked, barely above a whisper. Jamie shrugged, but there was a spark in his eyes. Like, maybe we stop pretending it's just hanging out. Like, maybe I want to see if this could be more. I swallowed hard. I want to see that too. For the first time in a long time, I felt like the weight I'd been carrying lifted just a little. The rest of the evening was a blur of shaky smiles, stolen glances, and hands that found each other without asking. We didn't kiss that night, not yet, but the promise of it lingered in the air, electric and terrifying. It was like stepping off a cliff and hoping the fall would be worth it. That night, I lay awake thinking about how the smallest touch could change everything. Jamie's boldness had opened a door I didn't even know was there, and I wasn't sure what was waiting on the other side, but for the first time, I was ready to find out. After that night, things between Jamie and me felt different, but not in a way that was loud or sudden. It was more like the air around us shifted, thicker, warmer, charged with this quiet tension neither of us wanted to break too fast. We kept hanging out, but now every small touch, every glance, carried a weight I could feel pressing on my skin. One Sunday afternoon, he invited me over to his place. I wasn't sure what to expect. When I got there, Jamie was just sitting on his couch, a little nervous smile playing on his lips. I sat down next to him, and for a while we just kind of existed in the same space. Neither of us spoke much, but his hand found its way to mine again, fingers intertwining like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I've been thinking," he said quietly, not looking at me but staring somewhere beyond the window. "About us. About how weird it feels, but how right it also feels." I squeezed his hand, waiting for him to keep going, and after a beat, he sighed. "I don't want to mess this up either, but I don't want to keep pretending I'm not hoping for something more. You know?" I nodded because honestly, I was hoping for the same thing, but didn't know how to say it out loud. So Jamie said, finally turning to look at me, "Would you want to?" "I don't know. Try?" "Try?" The word sounded so simple, but carried 1,000 questions about what it meant, what we expected, and whether we'd be okay if it didn't work out. I felt my heart racing, but I also felt this ridiculous, overwhelming relief. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want to try." That afternoon, we leaned in closer, and this time, the kiss came. The kind where everything else disappears, and all you're aware of is the person in front of you. Jamie's hands were gentle but sure, and I found myself sinking into the moment, the way I wished I'd let myself feel years ago. Afterward, we just stayed like that, wrapped up, not rushing to say anything because words felt unnecessary. It was simple, and it was real. In the weeks that followed, the boldness of Jamie's touch kept growing, not in any aggressive way, but in a way that showed he was learning how to be close to me, how to navigate this new territory we were exploring together. Sometimes, we'd be out with friends, and his hand would slide over mine under the table, or he'd brush his fingers over my back when we hugged. Other times, it was more intimate, long conversations late into the night, sharing things I'd never told anyone else. One night, we were lying on the floor of my apartment, the city lights casting faint shadows through the window. Jamie traced patterns on my arm with his fingers, and I felt that same nervous excitement from that first night, but now it was mixed with something deeper, a quiet certainty that I wanted to build something real with him. "Do you ever think about what this means?" I asked, my voice low. Jamie looked up at me, eyes soft. "All the time. But I think what matters is that we're here now, figuring it out together." There was a calm in his words that settled something inside me. I realized that maybe love didn't have to be complicated or loud. Sometimes, it was just two people learning how to touch each other without breaking what's fragile inside. We didn't rush into defining what we were. There were still awkward moments where I doubted myself or worried I was imagining things. But each time Jamie's hand found mine, or his voice dropped a little softer when he talked to me, it became clearer. This wasn't just a fling or a passing phase. It was something I wanted to hold on to. And honestly, I hadn't felt that way in a long time. One night, a couple of weeks after we'd started whatever this was, Jamie and I found ourselves at a rooftop bar overlooking the city. It was that in-between time, when the sun had just dipped below the horizon and the sky was still a deep blue. The kind of evening that felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. We grabbed a table near the edge, and the breeze was cool but gentle enough to make the neon lights shimmer off the glass. We sat side by side, shoulders barely touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat coming off him. The usual bar noise was there, the clinking of glasses, muffled conversations, but none of it really registered. It was like we were in our own bubble. Jamie's hand slid up to rest on my thigh again. This time, it wasn't just a casual touch. His fingers pressed a little, and I could feel the steady rhythm of his pulse right beneath his skin. I turned to look at him, and his gaze was steady, a little intense. "Are you nervous?" he asked, voice low. I nodded. "Yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure out how we got here." He laughed softly, that familiar sound that always made me feel like things would be okay. "Me too. It's weird, right? 1 minute we're just friends, and now it feels like everything's different." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Different good? Or different bad? Jamie's smile was a little crooked, like he was debating how much to tell me. "I think different good, but it's scary too. I don't want to lose what we had." "Me neither," I said honestly, but maybe what we had was just the beginning. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering on my cheek. I like that. We sat there for a moment, and I could feel the tension between us growing, like something was about to tip over, but neither of us was rushing it. Then Jamie leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull back if I wanted. But I didn't. Our lips met in a kiss that was softer, more hesitant than before, like we were both savoring the moment. When we finally pulled apart, Jamie whispered, "You're incredible." That hit me harder than I expected. Because I wasn't just falling for the idea of this. I was falling for him, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. The way his touch made me feel seen. Over the next few days, our conversations got deeper. We talked about fears, about what we wanted, about the messy parts of opening up to someone new. Jamie told me about times he tried to hide who he was, afraid of what people might think. I shared my own stories of feeling invisible, like I was always playing a part instead of being myself. It wasn't perfect by any means. There were moments when I caught myself doubting if I was overthinking everything, or if Jamie might change his mind. But every time I looked at him, every time his hand brushed against mine, I felt something solid growing between us. Something worth holding on to. One night, after a late dinner at my place, Jamie pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than usual. Our bodies fit together in a way that felt like coming home, and for the first time I realized how much I'd missed having that kind of closeness. "You know," he said quietly, "I never thought I'd be able to have this with a friend." "Not like this," I smiled, heart pounding. "Me neither, but I'm glad we did." His fingers traced lazy circles on my back, and I closed my eyes, letting myself feel everything. The excitement, the hope, the nervousness. Because even though the future was uncertain, right now felt real. "Whatever this is," Jamie said, pulling back just enough to look me in the eye, "I want to give it a shot." I nodded, because that's exactly how I felt. And in that moment, with the city lights flickering outside and Jamie's hand warm in mine, I knew I was ready to see where this could go, no matter how scary or unknown it might be. After that night, things felt like they were settling into some kind of rhythm between Jamie and me. It wasn't fireworks or grand gestures. It was quieter, like a slow-burning warmth that crept into all the little corners. We still hung out with our usual group of friends, but now, when we were alone, the way he touched my arm or brushed his fingers against mine felt like a secret language we were learning together. One Saturday, Jamie invited me to come with him to a small art exhibit he'd been talking about for weeks. I wasn't super into art galleries, but I said yes because, well, he asked, and I wanted to spend time with him outside the usual bar or couch setups. The place was tucked away in this warehouse district, all exposed brick and soft spotlights. Not crowded, which was nice. It gave us space to actually talk. As we wandered through the rooms, I found myself watching Jamie more than the paintings. He had this way of getting excited about the colors, the brush strokes. And somehow that enthusiasm made me feel connected to him in a way I hadn't expected. At one point, he reached out and lightly touched the small of my back, guiding me gently around a corner. His touch was deliberate, but soft, like he was testing the waters and hoping I'd lean into it. I did. We stopped in front of a painting, a splash of blues and yellows that looked chaotic, but somehow balanced. Jamie turned to me and said, "It reminds me of how things feel right now. Messy, a little confusing, but hopeful." I smiled, feeling the meaning behind those words. "Yeah, I get that." He leaned in closer, his breath warm against my ear. "I don't want to rush us, but I also don't want to pretend this isn't real." His honesty hit me hard. "Me neither. I think I'm scared. But mostly I just want to be with you." Jamie's eyes softened, and he reached up to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "That means a lot." We kept walking, hands brushing, until we found a quiet corner. Jamie's hand found mine again, and this time, he didn't let go. Instead, he laced our fingers together, and I felt a calm wash over me that I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Later, as we left the exhibit and stepped out into the cool night air, Jamie pulled me close. The city felt alive around us, but in that moment, it was just the two of us. His lips brushed my forehead in a gentle kiss, and I rested my head against his shoulder, feeling perfectly at ease. The days after that felt like a continuation of something important. We started doing things together that felt more like dating, cooking dinner, taking long walks, sharing playlists. But even with all the newness, it never felt forced. It was just us. One night, I invited Jamie over for dinner. I'd spent the afternoon nervously trying out a recipe I found online, hoping to impress him without making a disaster. When he arrived, he gave me that grin that always melted the edges of my anxiety. The meal went better than expected. We ate, laughed, and talked about everything and nothing. After dinner, we settled on the couch, and Jamie rested his head on my shoulder. The way his fingers traced lazy circles on my arm made my chest tighten. "Can I ask you something?" he murmured. "Anything." He hesitated, then said, "Where do you see this going? I mean, us." I took a deep breath, trying to find the words. "Honestly, I don't know, but I want to find out with you. I want to see if we can be more than just friends who sneak touches and stolen kisses. I want to see if this, whatever it is, can be something real." Jamie smiled, relief and hope shining in his eyes. "That's all I want, too." We stayed like that for a long time. Quiet, comfortable, close. For all the uncertainty ahead, in that moment, I felt something solid, something worth holding on to. And maybe that was enough for now. A few days after that night, Jamie and I were back to our usual Saturday routine, which had somehow become sacred. Coffee from the corner cafe, then wandering aimlessly through the city, just talking. It was one of those mornings where everything felt a little softer. The light filtering through the trees, the air smelling like fresh rain. Perfect for conversations that mattered. We found a bench in a small park, sitting side by side with our cups warming our hands. Jamie was quieter than usual, his eyes scanning the leaves above us, like he was working up the courage to say something. "Hey," I nudged him gently. "What's up?" He hesitated, then turned to me with a half smile. "I've been thinking about how we're still kind of in this in-between place." I knew what he meant. We'd been careful, almost shy about telling anyone else what was happening between us, partly because we weren't sure ourselves, and partly because it felt safer to keep things just ours. "I get that," I said, "but do you want to change that? Tell people?" Jamie looked at me, searching. "Yeah, I think I do. I don't want to hide anymore, even if it feels scary." I felt my heart swell. Me too. We sat there for a moment, hands slowly finding each other again. The thought of telling people, our friends, our families, was terrifying in its own way. But it also felt like a step forward, like finally letting the world in on what had been quietly building between us. Later that afternoon, Jamie suggested we meet up with a few of our close friends. I was nervous, but he squeezed my hand and gave me that reassuring look he always did. When we arrived, the group was already gathered at a local pub. There was the usual noise, laughter, and clinking glasses. Jamie and I slid into a booth, fingers intertwined under the table. After a while, Jamie cleared his throat and said, Hey everyone, I want to say something. The room quieted enough for us to hear. My stomach twisted, but Jamie's grip on my hand tightened. We've been friends for a long time, he began, looking directly at me. And lately things have changed. I'm dating someone. Actually, I'm dating this guy right here. There it was, said out loud. The words hung in the air, and I felt every pair of eyes on us. Our friends exchanged smiles and subtle nods, the atmosphere shifting into something warmer, more accepting. That's awesome, Jamie, our friend Mark said, raising his glass. We're really happy for you both. Relief flooded me, and I laughed softly. Thanks, Mark. It means a lot. As the night went on, I realized something important. This step, as scary as it felt, didn't change what Jamie and I had between us. If anything, it made it stronger. We weren't hiding anymore, and that felt freeing. Walking home later, Jamie slipped his arm around my waist, pulling me close. See? Not so bad, right? I smiled, resting my head against his shoulder. No, not bad at all. Days turned into weeks, and our relationship continued to grow, filled with small moments of tenderness and discovery. We learned how to navigate the world as a couple, balancing the familiarity of friendship with the excitement of something new. One evening, after a late movie and a shared pizza, Jamie turned to me and said, "I'm glad we didn't rush. I like how this is unfolding." "Me too," I said. "Feels like we're building something real." He nodded, pulling me closer. Yeah, something real. And in his arms, I finally understood that sometimes the boldest touch isn't the first. It's every touch after that, growing braver together. A few weeks after we'd finally told our friends, Jamie and I settled into a kind of comfortable rhythm that felt both new and familiar. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments where I caught myself overthinking, wondering if I was moving too fast or if Jamie was having second thoughts. But mostly, it felt like we were carving out a space that was ours, where we could just be. One Friday night, Jamie suggested we try something different, a cooking class downtown. Neither of us was particularly skilled in the kitchen, but the idea of learning something new together sounded fun, if a little nerve-wracking. The class was held in this cozy studio with wide windows and rustic wooden tables. When we arrived, the instructor handed us aprons and assigned us to a small group. Jamie and I paired up naturally, bumping hips as we moved around the counter, grabbing ingredients and trying to figure out what to do first. I watched him carefully chop some garlic, his brow furrowed in concentration, and felt this familiar surge, the same way I always did when I realized how much I cared about him. At one point, his hand brushed against mine as we reached for the same bowl, and this little current shot through me that made my heart stutter. "You okay?" Jamie whispered, eyes locked on mine. I nodded, trying not to smile too much. "Yeah, just distracted," he grinned. "By me? Maybe?" I admitted. The class went on with a mix of laughter, mild kitchen disasters, and stolen glances. When it came time to taste what we'd made, Jamie and I sat side by side, feeding each other bites and sharing honest compliments. The walk home afterward felt like a scene from a movie, the city lights sparkling around us, the night air cool but not cold. Jamie slipped his hand into mine again, fingers curling comfortably. "Do you think this is real?" I asked, voice low. He squeezed my hand. "Yeah, I do. I think we're figuring it out as we go, but that's kind of the point." I smiled, feeling warmth spread through me. "I'm glad it's you." Jamie stopped walking and turned to face me, eyes serious but soft. "Me too." Then, without much warning, he leaned in and kissed me. It was gentle but sure, like he'd been waiting for this moment as much as I had. When we pulled apart, the world seemed a little brighter, the night a little quieter. "Let's not rush," Jamie said, resting his forehead against mine. "But let's keep being bold." I laughed, because bold felt exactly right. With Jamie, everything felt like a discovery, like the kind of love that sneaks up on you in the best way possible. Over the next few days, our connection deepened, not just in the easy touches or secret smiles, but in the conversations that stretched late into the night. We talked about our futures, our fears, the parts of ourselves we'd kept hidden. Jamie told me about his childhood, the moments that shaped him, and I shared my own stories, feeling lighter with every word. One evening, we were lying on the couch, the city's hum filtering through the window. Jamie traced patterns on my arm, and I felt an urge to ask something that had been on my mind. "Do you ever worry about what comes next?" I asked quietly. He looked at me, eyes thoughtful. "All the time. But I think that's okay. It means we care." I nodded, heart pounding. "I want to keep trying, whatever that looks like." Jamie smiled, that warm, honest smile that always made me feel safe. "Me too. We'll figure it out together." In that moment, I realized that love isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to take the risk, to be vulnerable, and to let someone's touch get bolder, not just on your skin, but in your heart. With Jamie, I was ready to see just how far that could go. Several months had passed since Jamie's touch first became bolder, since the night we slipped from friends into something more uncertain but beautiful. And now, as I sit across from him in our favorite little cafe, watching the way his eyes light up when he talks about some silly inside joke, I feel this quiet certainty settle over me. Our hands are resting on the table, fingers casually intertwined like old habits. But there's something deeper in the ease between us now. It's not just the thrill of newness anymore. It's the comfort of knowing we've built something real together, one small touch at a time. Jamie looks up and catches me staring, his grin widening. "What?" he asks, teasing. "Just thinking," I say, smiling back, "about how lucky I am." He shrugs, but there's a softness in his eyes. "I was thinking the same." It's funny how something that started as a simple, tentative touch on a crowded bar stool grew into this, something steady, warm, and genuine. We've had awkward moments and doubts, sure, but learning to be close to someone like this, with all the messy parts included, has been worth every step. I think about all the times I hesitated, afraid to cross whatever invisible line kept us just friends. And now, here we are, not needing to hide or guess. The boldness isn't just Jamie's anymore, it's ours. We finish our coffees and step outside into the afternoon sun. Jamie slips his hand into mine without a word, and I feel that same spark I felt months ago, but underlined with a calm I hadn't known I needed. As we walk side by side down the street, I realize that sometimes the most meaningful love stories aren't about grand declarations or sweeping gestures. They're about the quiet moments, the touches that grow braver, the conversations that get deeper, and two people choosing each other every day. And today, with Jamie's hand in mine and the city buzzing softly around us, I know I wouldn't want it any other way.